Today, I am going to make a spoon using a box cutter, similar to this one, and ironically enough, to make a spoon you would need a spoon. So get one from your kitchen. Put the spoon on the piece and mark it. I know that I am calling this the box cutter, but it's actually a utility knife. But it is also called a box cutter. Both terms can be used for this. I am sticking with calling it a box cutter. Once you have it marked out, then start slowly cutting it to the shape of the spoon. This will take a long time. Note that long actually. As you can see, trying to cut it from the middle is going to be difficult, so start from the sides and work your way towards the middle. It's a lot easier, as you will see. When you are carving, you would find that following the grain of the wood makes it more smooth and easier to cut. On the other hand, when you are going opposite to the grain, it makes things a lot more difficult, as you can see afterwards. Take the analogy of the flowing river. Imagine that you are in the river. Now decide for yourself if going with the flow of the water is easier for going against it. The answer is quite obvious. Going with the flow. When you are getting this spoon head, it's easier to do it like this. The same method can be applied to the tail. And then a lot more carving on the spoon handle. As you can see here, when I am following the grain of the wood, the cut is nice and smooth, as opposed to when I am going against it. Now that the basic shape is complete, you can start carving the spoon head. For that you have to first draw a border around it. For some reason, I decided to do it on both sides. As you can see, I first tried to use the box cutter, but it didn't quite work out. Well, it was okay until a certain point. After that it became more and more difficult to continue, so I switched to something more effective, not that expensive item. As you can see here, it is getting more difficult to continue. So I switched to this. It's a carving knife. Now it is time to work on the underside. The same cutting rule applies here. Go with the flow. In this case, it's the grain of the wood. Don't go against it, or you can take off more than what you intended. Now the spoon head is roughly complete. All I need to do to refine it is to sand it, but first I need to finish the handle. I am going alone around it to act as a guide so that I know how much to cut. But it's completely unnecessary, you don't need it. I also ended up not using it that much. But it is helpful if you are a beginner. The thickness is completely up to you, just keep it at level that it could break, don't make it too thin. Once you have done that, you can start carving the shape of the handle. You have a number of choices on how to do that. You can either go for a rounded look or go for a square look. There are others you can do your own research. I won't list all of them here. Now all that is left to do is a lot of sanding, cutting, you know, all that kind of stuff. A woodworker's worst nightmare, sanding. If you are into woodworking, you know how awful sanding can be, but it's unavoidable. To sand the head of the spoon, you need to use your thumb, like how I am using it. In order to sand the handle, put a sandpaper on it and wrap your finger around like what I'm doing. This makes it not easier to do the whole thing at one go. Now put some finishing oil on it, and that's our spoon ready. Remember to use something that is food safe. I am just using some vegetable oil, it's the safest option. Here is the finished product. It is looking quite nice considering that I only used a box cutter. Not exactly, I could use another tool, but it was only like 1% of the whole thing. The main tool used was a box cutter. This one I made using an X-Acto knife. I didn't record any of that, so I did not show. This is the meaning tool that I used. It was only like $2. You also got 5 extra blades with it. On that note, I didn't have to change the blade. A single blade was enough, and it's still sharp. I can probably make another one using this. That's kind of a stretch. I might just have to change it midway. I can also just sharpen it if I need to, or I can just change it. As you can see, it's still quite sharp. I can make do with it if I really tried. Goodbye and see you on the next one. If you liked what you saw, then consider subscribing, and good day to you all.